Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Justin Clark and Paul Sousa here for a special edition of the Crypto Edge podcast sponsored by iCoinPro. Today, actually, we're going to be talking with Paul about a journey that he just made all the way to Vegas from Madeira for the Bitcoin 2025 conference. And he's got a lot to share about the conference. So we're going to be talking about that. We will be doing new coin listings. There's one actually kind of fascinating one we'll be talking about at the end of this presentation. But Paul, you are really the man of the hour. You made the journey. You went all the way across, well documented on social media. Thank you very much for that. But from talking with you just briefly, there's obviously a lot that you're unpacking from that conference. A lot for cryptocurrency and the cryptocurrency ecosystem and what it really means. So we wanted to put together this special edition to highlight what's happening in the world of crypto. So Paul, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can kind of start to fill everybody in on what you learned at this conference and why it was so important.
All right, cool. Look, the first thing I'm going to say is that it wasn't a cryptocurrency conference at all. It was Bitcoin only. It was Bitcoin 2025, and it's the second Bitcoin conference I've been to. The first one was actually here on the island of Madeira last year, where we had Michael Saylor, Jack Mallers, Jack Dorsey, and a bunch of other well-known people come over to our little island. And it was relatively small. They sold about 6,000 tickets. This one in Vegas, however, was big, and they had 35,000 people there, or they sold 35,000 tickets. And one of the biggest differences, apart from the size, was also the cost. The one in Vegas was a lot more expensive, although I purchased my tickets as soon as they became available. I paid $199, and those tickets went up. I think every month they would creep up until the week before the actual conference, so week before last, where the final and the cheapest tickets that you could get was $699. Okay, and that was the what they call the festival pass, and it was open to everybody. Now, it was two different companies that did the one here in Madeira versus the one that they did in the US. And what really caught my attention and why I wanted to go to this one in 2025 was last year in 2024 in Nashville. That's where President Trump spoke. And I watched a lot of the videos and I was like, this is really cool and I want to go to it. Now, I mean, I like Vegas in short bites. I mean, we've spent some time there, Justin. We've done our own conferences there. The first one that we did back in 2017. And I always look forward to going back to Vegas, except we stayed in the Golden Nugget up in Old Vegas, Fremont Street.
Yep.
This one was at the Venetian, which is on the Strip. Okay. Now, for those of you who've never been to Vegas, let me explain. You have Old Vegas, which is where your very old and first casinos like Binion's, Golden Nugget, Queens, and so on, were some of the very, very first casinos ever to be in Vegas. And they're really small. And what's nice about Old Vegas is you can practically walk out one door and into a different casino, or just cross the road and you're in a different casino. The Strip is another beast, okay? Mm-hmm. It is massive, and the casinos there are incredibly, incredibly, incredibly huge. And it's not a case of just, hey, let me pop next door, okay? Because that pop next door trip is going to take you at least half an hour on foot. And this conference was done at the Venetian. I stayed at Treasure Island, which was just across from the Venetian. It was to stay at the Venetian was ridiculous. It didn't really make sense to spend money staying in a room where most of the time, and this is the one thing that I know about Vegas, is you spend very little time in your room. You're going to be there to shower, to sleep, and to get dressed, and then you out the door again, because Vegas is Vegas and there's always something to do. This conference that was at the Venetian, which is it's a very, very nice hotel. I'm not going to lie. The Venetian has a lot of appeal. It is a big hotel, massive conference rooms, and they were more geared for the amount of people than any of the casinos up in Old Vegas. I mean, the Nugget, as awesome as it is, would never be able to accommodate 35,000 people. So it would make sense to do it on the Strip, and make sense to use a venue that had massive conference rooms, massive halls, in order to accommodate these 35,000 people. The thing is that it is a distance to walk. Now, anywhere on the Strip, if you want to go and visit a different casino, it's not just a case of walking up the road. Now, because they've done a lot of changes in Vegas on the Strip, they've changed the way that some of the roads work. Where there used to be crosswalks to get across the road. Now, some of these roads, guys, we're talking 5 or 10 lanes. So you'll have 5 lanes of traffic going in one direction, 5 lanes of traffic going in another direction. These are long roads. And in order to facilitate people, because there's people wanting to cross the road all the time, people walk. There's a lot of bridges going over the road. So now it's not, like I said, it's not just a case of walking out your door and walking next door to the casino next door. What you've got to do is you've got to, from wherever you are in your own casino, you've got to find the closest exit that is to wherever you want to go, and then go up either escalators or stairs on the ground level, cross over a bridge, and then go down and then continue walking. So you do end up putting a lot of miles on your feet. In the space of 4 days, I did over 100,000 steps.
Nice.
And that's an average of 25,000 steps a day. Like my best day was 28,000 steps. That's just the nature of the beast. You're going to walk a lot. And sadly, the last day, the last day that we were there, I discovered something called the Deuce. And the Deuce is a bus service that goes up and down the Strip, and it costs you $8 for 24 hours. So you can ride the Deuce for 24 hours up and down the Strip for a measly $8. And Paul over here, because like I'd done Uber in Vegas before, every time that we wanted to go somewhere that was too far to walk, and also like the heat, it was incredible. It was incredible. It was the high 90s, like really, really hot. So now you want to avoid walking in this heat. So you're going to catch an Uber everywhere, and it's $20 here and $20 there, and like I ended up spending a few $100s on Uber rides. Okay, and I lost my phone, just by the way, but I managed to get it.
Man.
No, it actually turned out. Look, I come from South Africa, where if you leave your phone somewhere, it's gone. Like no one's ever going to return it. But luckily, some very honest people that live in the US, and the Uber driver was one of them. He found my phone in the car. We had locked it remotely and put a message saying, if you find this phone, contact us at Treasure Island. He phoned me in the morning, said, got your phone, I'll meet you next 20 minutes. Came and dropped off my phone. I gave him a massive tip. Way cheaper than buying a phone. So yeah, it didn't make sense to me because now that I know that the Deuce goes from it traverses the Strip up and down. So the next time that you guys are in Vegas, make sure that you do make use of the bus service.
Talk about value, Paul. We are bringing value with this. People learning about things and how to travel better and smarter in Vegas.
Oh yeah, like I've got
honest Uber drivers there in Vegas. That's a heartwarming story.
I mean, we've done our conferences in Vegas. I went to my nephew's bachelor's in Vegas. I'd done other Vegas trips, and along the way you learn. You learn tips and tricks about how to operate while being in Vegas. And look, off the top of my head, one of the best places to have a little bit on the expensive side, but you eat a champion's breakfast, and that's at the MGM. It's a breakfast which is cheaper during the week. Weekends a little bit more, but it is you can sit there and eat and go back for more, whatever. And a lot of people, like the last time I stayed at the MGM, that's what we did. We would eat a very hearty breakfast and then not eat for the rest of the day, because it'll carry you. But it's like
the reverse of what I do. I do intermittent fasting, so I'm skipping breakfast, and then I eat for 8 hours, and then I don't eat for 16. But anyway, right. I digress.
But I suppose you could shift it so that when you do eat, you do eat well, because there are other buffets that are at different times during the day. So I know that Caesars has a seafood buffet for dinner,
Yeah.
because it was one of the things that we did for my nephew's bachelor's when we were there 2023 in October. And it's another place that you can eat like a king, but that one's a little bit more expensive than the one at the MGM.
Paul, you said buffet. It's pronounced buffet. I'm just messing with you, Paul.
It's buffet.
I know, I'm kidding around with you. But I know the Portuguese, I mean, you got a bunch of languages you're speaking there.
Hey, okay. I can end this with one very easy argument.
Yes.
Is it zebra or zebra?
Oh, it's clearly zebra.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because it's a Z.
Because I know Americans like to say zebra, and the only thing I've got to say is you cannot name something that you don't have.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a very funny story behind the pronunciation of aluminum, because it's not aluminum; it's actually written
aluminium.
Right.
Because I saw Matt Rife recently on stage being queried about that when he was in Britain. And he was like, "Oh, you're wrong. It's aluminum." And then they brought up the spelling, and he pronounced it, and just it was absolutely.
I've actually seen that same clip. I love Matt Rife.
He's funny.
I love Matt Rife. But yeah, the whole story behind aluminium was that the one of the companies that was originally started up, they spelt their name wrong, and they spelt it as aluminum, and they just kept it. So yeah, there's your aluminum. But in any case, it was an amazing buffet. But back to the conference. I need to sort of just explain the different tickets. There was something called the festival pass, which allowed you access to the 2 open days. Now there were actually 3 days. The first day, which was the Tuesday, the 2 open days were the Wednesday and the Thursday, but the Tuesday was press, industry, and whales. Okay. The industry pass cost $2,000. The whales pass, and I suppose anyone that could afford that pass got treated like royalty. That was nothing. It was a mere $21,000.
Oh, yeah.
But then you got to sit at
Bitcoin.
Yeah, you got to sit at like really in small, very small conference rooms with people like Michael Saylor and the Trump brothers and the Winklevoss twins and so on. So that all happened on the first day. On in the morning of the second day, which was basically the first day of the festival pass, Vice President J.D. Vance was supposed to. Well, he spoke, and we were there early. We were there early to go there and watch him. I really, really wanted to go and watch him. And at some point, and security was insane. Like they made people line up, and you had to go through like this, standing in cordoned off areas, going in a zigzag until you got to the front. They were searching everybody. They had dogs. Obviously, you're going to have the vice president there. And then when we were probably about 100 or so meters away from the door, they were like, "We're not letting anybody in. There's just not enough space." And I was like, "Wow! Like this is not a good start." I was already annoyed, so we left the line. Went to go and have. We actually didn't have breakfast that morning, so we were like, "Okay, well, this is going to have our breakfast now." And then, like, I thought this is going to be the most disappointing venture. Having traveled all the way from Madeira to go there, and then having to miss a lot of the talks because they didn't have enough capacity. But it just seemed like Vance was such a major pool that everybody wanted to go and watch him. And there were obviously people that went there just to watch him speak and then left, because then after that, all the other, right up until the last main keynote talk by Michael Saylor, there was no, actually the last probably big talk was by Ross Ulbricht, think that was the very, very last one. Right up until then, there was space and availability. You might struggle to find a seat. We found seats on the side, but you could still see the stage a little bit, and it's like seeing people from far. If you want to go there for the vibe, you go there for the vibe. If you're going to go there to try and get a great seat, you've got to be there early. That's the only thing I can say. And I'm really, really glad that even though we didn't have the best seats, we got to go and rub shoulders with a lot of the people there and just see what was going on. Now, I do need to reiterate that this was not a cryptocurrency thing at all. It was just everything about Bitcoin. They did speak, they did touch on other things, because Paulo Ardino, I don't know if people know who he is. He's the guy behind Tether, USDT. The guy behind Tether spoke about Tether a little bit. And then there were some of the other talks that were not 100% specific to Bitcoin. One of the speakers, and people might know who this man is. His name is Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff is a well-known gold bug, and he was one of the speakers. I thought this is absolutely insane. Like,
what freaking parallel universe is this?
He is so contrarian to Bitcoin. He absolutely hates it. He doesn't understand why people use it and buying it and whatever the case is. And he actually spoke, but not about gold. He spoke about Bitcoin. But I won't say it was incredibly negative, but he was just putting his point of view across, and it was it was refreshing to hear.
Did he get booed when he came
did?
Out?
He did. He got booed a few times. Like the minute that they announced his name, the man got booed, and then he said a few things against Bitcoin, and he got booed. But he kept his composure, and like I really got to hand it to the guy. Like, it's not every day that you have the guts, the absolute gall to go to a massive Bitcoin convention and say, I don't know why you guys buy Bitcoin. Like, it's absolutely crazy.
It is all, for him. I mean, okay, Peter Schiff. Let's see how many followers he has. How do you spell it? Is it Schiff?
I'll tell you now.
Peter Schiff. Hold on. Let's see. I think somebody's got him. No, they don't. Here he is.
1.1 million followers.
A German spelling. He's obviously, I think he's German.
Peter Schiff has 1.1 million followers.
Yeah. So, listen to me. He is doing exactly what he wants to do. Get exposure, right? He's a classic, like P.T. Barnum said, I don't care what they're saying about me as long as they spell my name right. That's his whole shtick. He's anti-Bitcoin. He's showing up at the Bitcoin conference. You know how many people are looking him up now that probably had no idea who the heck he was? Like only Bitcoin people. I would not know Peter Schiff. I would not know who he was or what he was about or anything if he hadn't been so anti-Bitcoin this entire time.
So I want to actually speak on that.
Yeah.
I want to speak on that because that was one of the things that he said. He was like, no one would know who I was if I was pro-Bitcoin.
Yep.
And he says that he's probably gotten more people to investigate Bitcoin because of his stance than most other influencers. And you got to hand it to the guy. I guess that's true. Like he's a very outspoken critic of Bitcoin. But he spoke well. He wasn't one of those guys that just went up there just to get his voice heard. He put forth a bunch of really, really good points. So if you do get the opportunity to hop onto YouTube and watch his talk, I would highly, highly recommend it. Because it is a good contrarian vision. But for someone like myself, I have nothing but absolute faith in Bitcoin. He's never going to shake my faith. But it's still good to hear someone like that speak, because when you do and you go, I hear what you're saying, but Bitcoin still makes sense to me, that then shows your character. Okay. And I think that most people that are just in it for the ride, or they just want to make a quick buck, or whatever the case, you should actually go and listen to someone like him and then reevaluate their stance on Bitcoin. Because a lot of people get into this because they're after quick riches.
Yeah.
I got into Bitcoin because I didn't realize that it was something that you could invest in. I got into it out of necessity. A lot of people know my story, how PayPal had shut my account down, and I turned to Bitcoin because I needed it. I didn't turn to Bitcoin because I wanted to make money. And I then saw other things, and the more I got exposed to Bitcoin, the more I realized this was beyond an investment. It was a complete change in how our money system works. So my stance on Bitcoin is never going to be shaken. But there are a lot of people out there that they're looking for a quick out, or they're looking for, I'm in desperation mode and I need to make money. And those people end up buying Bitcoin in the hopes of making today gains, and they'll end up. And if you're in that camp, I would advise you to go and watch what he had to say, because I think that everybody needs to see both sides of the coin. You don't get into Bitcoin to try and make a quick buck. All right. If you're going to get into to Bitcoin for the long haul, it's completely different. Now, I do need to say before we even continue, I'm not giving any financial advice here whatsoever, because, like I said, I never got into Bitcoin as a means to make money through investing in it. I had to use Bitcoin because I was living in a foreign country. I had my PayPal account shut down, and without papers in a foreign country, I couldn't work. I couldn't do my work, and I needed to find a way to be able to transact and for people to send me money. And Bitcoin was the only thing that I could open and use. That is why I got into Bitcoin. It was not for financial gain. So
I can attest, it's a true story. I was there when it happened.
Right. Because I mean, this basically formed the basis of how iCoinPro got started. Because Justin was the one who contacted me, wanting me to sell him some leads, and I said to him, okay, but you need to pay me with Bitcoin. And he was like, man, Bitcoin, I don't know what that is. I don't want to use it, man. Before. And then the next thing, Justin's one of the best traders that I know. Like, it's crazy. But in any case, so I do want to push forward here. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck. And we only the aim was to do about 30 minutes of this.
Yes. Let's keep going. We can digress a lot.
Right. So this convention, even though it was during the week and there were 35,000 people there, there were so many things all happening at the same time across different stages. The main stage was called the Nakamoto stage, and this is where all the big keynote talks were happening, and all the big names spoke on that particular stage. But there were like little conference rooms and other stages and outside in the open areas and whatnot, where everyone else and a lot of the unknown speakers and also some very well-known speakers as well were doing different talks on all the types of different subjects. It was absolutely impossible in 2 days to soak everything up. Okay, and it was just one of those things that made me go, oh man, like I really want to go back next year to the next one. I don't think I'm going to be doing Bitcoin again next year, because the plan is, while I do want to go to the US again in 26, it's not for Bitcoin, but for the World Cup. Yay!
Not in Florida?
It's all over. There's games in Canada, Mexico, and the US. So there will be there's a couple of games in Miami.
Yes, I heard here. Yep.
It's a month of soccer, guys, and it's going to be massive. And I do intend on going to go and attend a couple of games. Might do a couple of games in Florida and a couple of games in Mexico. So we'll see how that goes. Still in the planning stages. So I wasn't planning on doing 2 trips to the US next year. Just the one. But who knows? Maybe in 2027 I might go back. But it's definitely one of those things that when you attend it, you're like, man, I didn't absorb enough, and you want to go back for more. These type of events with all these speakers and everybody there is hyped up. Some of them are in it for the gain, some of them are in it for the tech, some are in it for there was all different types of things. Now, while this was predominantly Bitcoin only, and I did mention that there were other people that spoke about other things, there were stalls where people were pushing different things. And for example, there was a couple of guys that were from a Solana validator where they were pushing their validator so that if you staked your Solana with them, you would get Bitcoin back. So it was still tied to Bitcoin. So it was just so much happening, and a lot of vendors selling everything. Then there were mining companies showcasing cooling for mining, new architecture for chips, like all these different things. It was like almost every facet of Bitcoin was approached. But then there was the talks about using Bitcoin as collateral for loans. That was a huge eye opener. And there was a couple of guys that spoke about that. One of them was Jack Mallers, who and the Trump brothers also touched on that. And this was, it's basically, it seems like it's this massive push to pump Bitcoin up as the easiest asset to deploy, to borrow against. And it absolutely makes sense. And now we're going to be seeing a lot of other companies pushing the same agenda, especially now that you have entire countries putting Bitcoin on their books. And we know of a few already, and it's and like based on some of those talks, there's more and more companies every single day announcing, oh, by the way, we're putting Bitcoin on our books. Everybody knows MicroStrategy, or now they've been rebranded to Strategy, Michael Saylor's company. They are holding over 500,000 Bitcoin on their books, and it's billions and billions and billions of dollars. And everyone thought that this is like the craziest idea and he's the only person doing it. Well, guess what? There are so many other companies, maybe not at that scale, but there's even companies outside of the US. MetaPlanet is the one that comes to mind at the moment. And a lot more companies are jumping onto this bandwagon. And then there are certain US-based institutions that are not only jumping on the bandwagon, but also allowing, like banking companies, allowing their banks to do custody for their clients. So kind of, if you think of the ETFs from BlackRock, but through banks saying, hey, no problem, we'll hold on to your Bitcoin for you. And they basically just sweeping the floor on Bitcoin, buying up as much as they can to keep on their books. And it's like, if there's nothing that I've seen that solidifies Bitcoin into what it's evolved in, as like what all these guys are pushing for. Because if you have your house and you want to borrow against it, that is one thing, and it's not an easy process, because you have to remortgage your home. Anyone that's ever done anything like that will tell you it's not an easy process. And why this push towards something like Bitcoin? Because it's a lot easier. You can apply for a loan against your Bitcoin without giving up control of your Bitcoin. Okay, and this is the mind-blowing thing, because we know companies like Celsius were holding other people's Bitcoin. You can borrow against your Bitcoin with us. They just went about it in a very, very weird way and got into trouble. And their CEO was just sentenced, because of that whole debacle. He was sentenced a couple of weeks ago to, I believe, 12 years in prison for essentially what was fraud. So they've now figured out exactly where he went wrong, and have taken this approach where they avoid exactly what Celsius did, to enable people that hold Bitcoin to then start borrowing against it without them giving up custody of their Bitcoin. Companies like Celsius didn't. They would hold your Bitcoin for you. So this is a push in a direction that I think that a lot of people are going to appreciate. Those people who are holding on to their Bitcoin for the long haul, those people that believe that Bitcoin will be worth $13 million one day. And yes, that's a figure that I've heard. And they have got no plans to sell it between now and then, but they need easy access to cash. But they don't want to remortgage their homes. They don't want to sign a whole bunch of papers and take days or even weeks to get their hands onto a loan money, or do payday loans, which we know charge astronomical amounts when it comes to interest. Now what they are pushing for is the ease of being able to take out loans against. Hey, listen, I got some Bitcoin here. I'd like $5,000. Okay, no problem. Here's your $5,000 loan. You're going to have to pay us back $5,050 or whatever the case is.
Mhm.
That's the push. That's what's coming. It's they want to enable everyday people, and obviously because this was something that was in the US, like they want to empower Americans to be able to have ease of finance. Really,
Interesting.
that was pretty interesting. Sorry, were you saying something, Justin?
No, I was just commenting. Just interesting. Yep.
Yeah, super interesting. And then Michael Saylor as well. Like he's it's the second time I've heard him speak live, and he delivered a powerful message with 21 rules that he had come up with. I'm not going to go through them. I mean, we'd be here for a couple of hours. Do go watch his talk on YouTube as well. Not many people know the name Adam Back, but Adam Back was one of the speakers. Adam Back was one of the original core developers for Bitcoin, and he had a few words to say as well, which I guess opened a lot of people's eyes. And then you had like some of the very clued up bulls like Arthur Hayes. I don't know if people know who Arthur Hayes is from Bitfinex. He's the one that like he got himself into a little bit of hot water because he was allowing people to do 100x leverage on Bitfinex.
I miss those days.
100x
I miss those days because trading volatility was max. I mean, when they were doing stuff like that, but you're not seeing it as much anymore.
No. I mean, look, there's still some places that allow you to leverage up to 40x.
Yeah, but 100x, man, it would just like the market could. I mean,
but the thing is, there was guys putting like $100 on 100x. You know, and there were people that were shorting Bitcoin at 100x, and there were people that made money because they caught the market at the right time. Top of 2017 was one of the best times to possibly short Bitcoin at 100x. It went from 19,000 down to 3.5 a year later. Now at 100x that, and even on just $100, people made silly money. But yes, we don't like leverage at iCoinPro. We don't teach it. We don't
advocate. They gave it back in the next cycle. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the challenges. There's one trader on X right now who built his portfolio up to 100 million, and now it's negative.
So, James Wynn.
Yeah.
I think the guy needs to change his name to James Loss.
It's sad. I mean, but that's again why I don't teach leverage trading, because it is so. It's just the math.
Didn't he take $100 million loss?
Yeah. I mean, he's negative on it. I mean, it's insanity. Or I don't know if he's taken a loss, but the unrealized gain is just brutal right now. And
unrealized loss.
Yeah, and he's trying to raise money, but I don't want to speak to that. But you know what I'm saying? The point is, leverage trading is brutal. And even if you see guys who are saying, man, I got my Maserati and my mansion and whatever, they're renting those things on Instagram, and I took a $400 account and turned it into $400,000 in 5 weeks, stuff like that. It's just smoke and mirrors, man. Most of the time they probably are lying. But secondly, even if they were able to do that, when they try to continue doing that, they blow it all out in such short order. It's just almost unbelievable. The math, that's how it is. Even the guys who are hyper successful, like this individual, can go from, I mean, who needs more than $100 million? You know what I'm saying, Paul? I mean, sell,
Yeah. But anyway, before I actually forget, on the way home on Delta Airlines, because I flew with Delta, I was scrolling through their movies, and a movie came up called Cold Wallet.
Oh.
Watch that movie. It's not the best. It's never going to win an Oscar. It's not going to be like on the world's top 100 movies ever made. But if you've dabbled in crypto, or you've traded, or you played on DeFi, or you got sucked up into the hype and you were told to buy this coin because it's going to the moon, watch that movie, Cold Wallet. Like I super enjoyed it. It was like, for someone that's been around crypto for a while, that movie will just I'm not going to say much. I'm not going to tell you what the plot is. Just give it a watch. Cold Wallet. Right. So a couple of other speakers that I listened to, because like I said, it was impossible to be able to speak to or listen to all the speakers, because there was all these rooms on different stages, and some of my speakers. When I say my speakers, I'm talking about the people that I really want to listen to, or the people that I follow on Twitter or on YouTube, that I watch their videos and consume what they say. A lot of the time slots overlapped, so I couldn't watch both, and I had to choose who do I like more, and so sadly I didn't get to watch everybody that I had set out to watch and listen to, but I did get to listen to the ones that a lot of the ones that I really like. One of those is an economist analyst by the name of Lynn Alden. Her talk was super awesome. She's got a brain on her like nobody I've ever listened to. So for those people who are looking for someone new to listen to, she's got an insanely good grasp on not just economics, but like everything in the world of money that makes things go around. And she gave her take on Bitcoin. So there's another one for you to go and check out on YouTube. Go and listen to that. And then the author of the book, The Bitcoin Standard. Don't know if you guys know who he is, or if you've ever heard of that book. But if you've not read the book, get your hands on it. His name is Sept Amus, and he gave also another really awesome talk. But there were two gentlemen that got onto stage and spoke together, and who I was very pleasantly surprised by their message and their passion and what they had to say. And these two guys, his name is Eric Trump, and the other one is Don Trump Jr., the Trump brothers. I was like, wow, these guys they spoke well, and they spoke eloquently, and they spoke about why they got into Bitcoin. And this was very interesting. And basically their entire story about how and why they got into Bitcoin was because of the debanking that was going on in the US, which was blamed on the previous administration. It was kind of like a move against, there was a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of public figures that were whose bank accounts were affected by people within the Biden administration that were trying to put a stop to anyone that was doing anything that they didn't like, or being too pro crypto and Bitcoin. And the Trump brothers were affected by this, and which is what actually forced them more into the Bitcoin ecosystem, which was another couple of guys that were forced into it through necessity. So they speak that they talk.
Paul, it's like you with PayPal, but on steroids.
Right. Yeah, this was the thing. So a lot of people don't even. I think that a lot of people don't even know that was happening in previous years. I'm going to say not the last 2 years, but the previous 4 years. There was a big push against. And look, we still know that there's a lot of senators and a lot of people in Washington that they still despise Bitcoin. Sadly, I didn't get to hear Senator Cynthia Lummis, who is a massive advocate for Bitcoin, and is the one responsible for pushing towards a Bitcoin strategic reserve, and now all the new talks of not just a Bitcoin strategic reserve, but potentially a new worldwide reserve currency. And man, if that happens, it's going to blow the roof off everything that we've ever thought. Because all this was a pipe dream, when we first started dabbling in the Bitcoin space and crypto space, this was all it was like, yeah, it would be so cool if that happens. And now we
In
sit
2017, we were like, we hope no countries ban Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, countries were banning Bitcoin. They were like, but I mean, people change, policies change. I mean, there was prohibition in the 30s and 40s. That got dropped. Marijuana was outlawed throughout the US for many, many years for all the wrong reasons, and now
it's kind of halfway. Right.
Well, you walk into it, most states are friendly, and you can get you walk into a dispensary, like things change, and I think the thing with Bitcoin is or how Bitcoin has been perceived has changed as well. Now you must remember that something like that, like Bitcoin, that comes along and is completely contrarian to a person's way of life. And I know a lot of people who were highly educated financial gurus, CAs, people that work for CPA firms and so on, who have the best understanding of money, but were educated. The thought process is called Keynesian. It's how a person gets taught, especially where economics are concerned. There's a few different types of thought processes around finances. Keynesian is the one. Then you have Austrian, and then libertarian. And most people now are shifting towards a libertarian way of approaching money and finances. But those people who were initially educated in the Keynesian school of thought, when it comes to something like Bitcoin breaks everything that they know, and they're not comfortable with that. They don't like it, and they will persecute it until their dying breath. They will not change. Some people that they will absolutely not change. And I have people like that in my family, that they, when they see me, they please don't tell me about this Bitcoin thing. That thing's horrible. It's going to upset the world, the world economy. No, the world economy was already going for a ball. Bitcoin just came about to try and set things right in a way. And not only that, but there's people in Congress. We know that Senator Elizabeth Warren, super against Bitcoin, doesn't like it. And if it's not for a lack of understanding, it's basically very difficult to get people who have been entrenched into one way of thinking their entire lives to then get them to say, hey, listen, there's something better. Go and have a look at this. They're not interested in changing, and you can never change their minds. So a lot of people might hate on her because they're like, man, but Bitcoin is good. It's good for everything. You're not going to convince everybody, and you can't hate those people that don't. It just is what it is. You're going to get people that hate Coca-Cola and love Pepsi, and I don't understand those people. Okay, because to me, Pepsi is horrible. I like classic Coke. That's me.
You're all terrible to me. I don't drink any regular soda. But anyway,
okay, all right. But you get what I'm saying, is that some people are so against something, and you're never gonna change their minds. Okay, I'm like that about Dogecoin. I don't know why people invest in it. I don't know why people trade it.
That's the only coin I hold is Doge.
And you're probably not even joking.
I'm totally joking, Paul. I'm just ribbing
you. But like so, and some people might say, but why? Like if money's not supposed to be something that is taken seriously, and here you have this form of money that started off as a meme, and it was the original meme coin, Dogecoin. It's so entrenched, everybody uses it, everybody knows about it. So why not hold it? I'm still going to be the guy that says I'm not interested in it. I'm never going to trade it. I don't want anything to do with it. And I will be very vocal. And you have people like that in Congress that feel the same way about Bitcoin because it's contrarian to how they were educated.
Yep.
But all in all, a super interesting time.
Yes, it was a great trip. It was also very nice seeing you here in Florida.
Yes.
Getting to spend some time together and just get to see you in person, which we've done a couple times, but not that often over.
Yeah, dude. Like I so appreciate the fact that you came.
12 years, I think, Paul. 12 years we've known each other.
I so appreciate that you came to Port St. Lucie and went to the little market together. It was super nice.
Even though it was like freaking molten out there. I mean, it was
It
so.
was so hot. It was absolutely
I kept
crazy.
pushing for the beach, man. I'm like, yeah, we need to go to the beach.
I know. It was
In Florida, we don't go to markets, we don't go to amusement parks. We go to the beach.
the thing is we weren't prepared for a beach outing. It was supposed to be just 2 days, go and visit my buddy Daryl, go and hang out with him, and then yeah, I mean you came through like a champ, and I got to meet Noah, cute kid.
Yeah.
He dribbled me a few times.
I'll get you. That's right.
But I was very taken with the Jupiter area.
Yeah, it's nice.
We went on a boat ride around Jupiter Island.
Yeah, that's where our good friend Ben Glinsky lives. He's down in that area.
And we went on a boat ride around Jupiter Island and got to see houses that belong to people like Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, and it's all these $10 and $20 million homes, waterfront homes, each house with their own dock and private jetty. And Tiger Woods, he has a 163-foot yacht that's too big to park in front of his house. So he's got a boat to take him to his yacht.
There you go. That's what you got to do.
Who lives like that? It's absolutely insane. But I do want to say this, that visiting that place was such an inspiration. And it wasn't just because it was mega wealthy. It was just because of possibilities.
Yeah.
And sometimes I believe that people need to do a little bit of dream building.
Oh,
because
yeah.
if you aim for the stars and you hit the moon, you've done well. You got to have big aspirations in life. Like, things are not going to happen if you cannot picture them in your mind. And just being there on that water, because we took this little boat ride, it was absolutely amazing. And I was like, these people did something. You know, a lot of them, because the guy that was taking us around was showing us houses and going, well, if you've ever had a coffee from Starbucks, you contributed to that house. If you've ever bought a Yeti cup, well, then you helped pay for that house. And some of the entrepreneurs that have these massive houses there originally started as everyday people like us. It wasn't, there's a lot of old money that's there, absolutely old money, and people that made money from talents like singing or sports, because Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, but also entrepreneurs that had an idea and ran with it. The guy that invented the barcode,
Yes,
he has a house there.
Yes, it's down in Jensen Beach too, area on Jensen Island.
He opens his home to the public. He spends $100,000 at Christmas to decorate his house, and he opens it to the public.
And he does the same thing in the Jensen Beach area. I'm pretty sure it's him, but one thing you never do is turn down that road. It's right on A1A, which is right on the ocean. And you never want to go down that road during Christmas because people are pulled over, parking. There's huge lights. It's an unbelievably amazing place he has there too.
It was really an eye opener. And I remember just leaving there thinking, a lot of these people are self-made. I'm 52. Ray Kroc built McDonald's into the behemoth that it is today, and he started at the age of 52. Because before that, he was a salesman. He was a traveling salesman selling milkshake beaters, and then got involved with McDonald's. So it's never too late for anybody, and that place is a testament to that.
It's never too late to learn a new skill to make money, like learning how to trade, and that's a beautiful thing. I mean, listen, if you weren't one of the people who got Bitcoin in 2010 or 2014 or 2017, there's so much opportunity in this market. And it comes from trading now. As far as, we can't give any investment advice here, we're not licensed and insured for that. We talk about Bitcoin because I think the cool thing is we know that this is something that's here and not going to go away. The world is embracing it. So it creates opportunity. And there's even clarification coming out, even further clarification about altcoins and the SEC and everything like that. So, there's just a lot of great stuff happening. And, the Bitcoin conference, why that's important is because for everybody who's in the cryptocurrency space, even if you don't have any Bitcoin, is because everything follows Bitcoin. So where Bitcoin leads, the rest of this market goes. It's looking very positive for the future of Bitcoin. Will that make the price go to 200,000, 300,000, $1 million a coin? We have absolutely no idea. Okay. Could $110,000 be the top? Who knows? We don't know. But the opportunity and what you can do with cryptocurrency and learning how to trade and everything is evergreen now.
I'm a little bit afraid to really tell people what I think. But the only thing that I can suggest is, because I have a much better idea now. But the only thing that I can suggest is, next time that you can get yourselves to a conference like this, go and do your own homework. Don't just follow people blindly because they tell you something.
Paul's course in iCoinPro. Learn all about Bitcoin, how it works, why it exists. It's a short but extremely impactful course that we have, so you can understand how this all came about.
It's been 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
8 years. I think we've just recently passed our 8th year.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm still learning new things.
Interesting.
Still learning new things. Keep yourselves educated, guys. Education is the one thing that can never be taken away from you. Well, once it's in your head and you learn something, it can never be taken away. But having educated yourself on crypto, Bitcoin, how it works, why it works, and so on, will give you an edge over a lot of other people. People are like, Bitcoin is, it's too late now, and everybody's looking for the next Bitcoin, and this is going to be the. I would just recommend you do the homework, learn what you can, because this is still early days. Like a very few % of the world's population have exposure or own crypto, any type of crypto, not just Bitcoin. I think the next 4 to 8 years are going to be probably the most interesting in this space, for various reasons, but more because of the deregulation of certain things, and bringing down the walls that have been put up by previous policymakers surrounding crypto. I didn't even mention Ross Ulbricht. So a lot of people know that Ross Ulbricht was arrested for his part in Silk Road, and he got to speak at this event. Just hearing how harsh his sentence was. Yes, he was facilitating the sale of drugs, but there's been cartel members and so on that have had far less prison time given. He was given 3 life sentences plus 40 years. He was going to die in jail if President Trump didn't commute his sentence.
Wow.
And hearing him was also quite nice. So now we have a complete about turn that is happening on crypto. I think that things in this space are just getting started. It's hotting up. It's now mainstream. It's getting accepted. And the new policies and things and direction that banks and financial institutions will be taking in the next 4 years is going to change the space and the way that we understand money and finance forever. Like, things will never be the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, interesting. All right, Paul. Well, we are coming up on an hour. I do have one new coin listing that I want to go over. You mind if we do that quickly, and then we're going to wrap it up for this episode of the Crypto Edge podcast. All right, so yes, one coin here that was listed, which I found interesting. It's called Pax Gold. It's actually going to be loaded into our system soon. But this is what it is, and it's on Coinbase. It hasn't quite made it over to Binance yet that I saw. But it says Pax Gold is a gold-backed cryptocurrency launched by the creators of Paxos Standard in September 2019. As an ERC20 token operating on the Ethereum blockchain, Pax Gold is tradable on a large variety of exchanges and has become an accessible way for traders to start investing in gold. The main goal behind Pax Gold is to make gold more tradable, as the physical commodity is not easily divisible or flexible in terms of transport. This is why Paxos Standard decided to create a cryptocurrency entirely backed by gold. According to the official white paper, Pax Gold was created to allow investors to buy indefinitely small amounts of gold through the cryptocurrency, thus virtually eliminating minimum buy limits for the commodity. Fascinating, isn't it, Paul? What's happening in crypto and what they're tokenizing. I just found that one interesting. There were a couple other ones that got listed, but nothing I thought that was worthy of speaking about. I don't know if, it's, again, we're not doing, investment advice or anything, but essentially it's, you're trading gold, but it's a cryptocurrency coin that the price is pegged to gold. Fascinating. So we will see, but happily I will trade that. It's a weird kind of stable coin, kind of, Paul. It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean,
Gold's not stable. You can't call it a stable coin.
No, but I'm saying that it's a stable coin in that it's stably mimicking the price of gold.
Gold.
So I'm not sure. Yeah, it's like pretty wild. So anyway, all right, that's all I've got, Paul. Paul, thank you so much. Huh?
I would trade that.
Yeah, why not? I mean, as long as the volume's there and squeeze bubble 1, 2, 3 money, we'll trade it. All right. I want to just wrap this up by saying thank you again, Paul, for sharing your insights there, making that trip, doing the research, and then coming out here and sharing, what you learned while you were there, to the benefit of everybody. That firsthand experience, I think, is pretty cool. And for everybody else, listen, if you're looking to understand crypto, if you're looking to learn how to trade, we've got a great free boot camp you can do. Take you literally about 40 minutes to do it. You could just get back with whoever shared this video with you, or introduce you to iCoinPro, or you can shoot an email to support@iCoinPro.com, and they will be more than happy to get you that information. All right, Paul, that's all I've got. Take care, everybody. Thanks again for coming out and listening to the Crypto Edge podcast. Bye-bye, everybody.